For 30 years, the Economic and Social Research Foundation, Esrf, has been at the heart of Tanzania's transformation. Displaying excellence in policy research, capacity development, and knowledge management. As Tanzania's leading independent think tank, it is committed to shaping the future of economic and social policy in the country and supporting the nation's development goals. The story of the Esrf began in October 1992 in response to a pressing need for more evidence-based policymaking in Tanzania. It emerged from the recommendations of a 1991 report on economic analysis and management, which highlighted the gaps in local capacity for policy work and the over-reliance on donor-driven agendas.
The idea of Esrf came from the Ministry of Planning, which was at that time called the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission had a feeling that they needed an institution which would be outside government, but which would help government to undertake assignments on a very objective manner. They put up a team of 4 experts, 2 from the Planning Commission and 2 from academia. Now, I was one of those from academia, myself and Professor Banakadi from the University of Dar es Salaam. So we wrote a paper and submitted to the Ministry or the Planning Commission. That was 1991. So it took them about 2 years. Then they formed Esrf in 1993, which was registered outside government as an NGO. So in the process, out of 30 people, I was selected the first executive director of Esrf, which started in April 1994. The name Esrf was proposed by Brian Banakadi, and we accepted it because we want to deal with economic and social research. And the idea of foundation came at that time when it was thought funding would be large enough for Esrf to do its research itself, but also to distribute funding to other people who would do research on its behalf.
Since effectively beginning operations in 1994, Esrf has worked closely with key government ministries, non-governmental organizations, and donors to bridge gaps, strengthen institutions, and build a foundation for informed dialogue on policy issues. Esrf has also conducted significant policy reviews at the sector level, such as the National Microfinance Policy, National Environmental Policy, National Energy Policy, National Youth Policy, and National Tourism Policy.
If you mention any policy, any strategy, Esrf has a footprint on it. Steering as part of the team leader doing that work, or as a peer reviewer to that work. An institution which is entrusted to be part of the Secretariat for designing Tanzania Vision 2025. And again, last year, given the responsibility to identify which core areas should be taken into consideration as we prepare the new Vision 2050 and beyond, as they call it.
Most of the reforms were not informed by research works. We are driven by development partners. Through Esrf, we managed to do research, field survey, which we got some original findings from the Tanzanians, because we visited various places, including villages, where we met the villagers. We're using those responses to generate some of the findings and the conclusions. And then through those conclusions and those findings, we came up with very good policy statements.
Esrf is doing a very, very important job to the betterment of the community in Tanzania. It is touching each and every individual. Its role is just like stewardship, working for the benefit of the people.
In the textile industry, many of us are asking ourselves, why do we have such a huge second-hand market for clothes in this country? Second-hand clothes, second-hand shoes. And there was a move, just as other countries have done, of abolishing that market. But Esrf was contracted and was asked to provide evidence as to what will be the impact, how many Tanzanians will be affected if we just abolish that market and put a stop into it. You can't believe it. It was huge. We provided evidence that unless we come up with an alternative to occupy these young people who are working on alternative economic activities will actually negatively, if not adversely, affect their life. We requested that the government take pause and engage into alternative ways to absorb these people in the textile industry. And so the major recommendation was, let us grow the textile industry, come up with the new manufactured products which these young people can start selling, can start retailing. And as you can see, there is a move to revive our textile industries. There is a move now to work on new clothes and gradually phase out that. And I think we have been useful. Our research was useful.
Through ESRF undertakings of research, we came up with a paper which later on became a program which saved or helped to free most of the Tanzanians from poverty. I remember we participated in most of the public expenditure review studies, particularly in the social sectors. We reviewed how the public resources were used and then provided some comments and recommendations on how to improve the expenditure, on how to improve spending of the budgetary resources, and also helping them how to reallocate some of the resources, at least to have a positive impact to the economy. I participated in collecting data for preparing or developing the macroeconomic model of our economy. Through that model also, we generated the financial programming. It helped us to know how much the government is earning and how much are we going to spend and how much do we need to borrow.
From 2017 to 2020, the foundation supported 25 regions of Tanzania mainland in identifying priority investment opportunities and preparing regional investment guides to enhance local development.
Investment guides, have really been critical in terms of local investors or foreign investors. If they want to come to the particular region, is there raw material in a certain sector? Because you can't just go to, I want to invest, but raw material, the skills that is there. Every region was innovative on its own way. For instance, the Mwanza region, they decided to come up with an investment team. For instance, in Tanga, they had a big investment forum, and where not only that we shared investment opportunities that are available there, but also other investors came to also share what other opportunities they have in terms of employment, in terms of contribution to the economy, and so on and so forth. And in Katavi also they did some feasibility studies to see how can they brand their own region based on the investment opportunities that they have. So I guess each region has done it differently, and we facilitate those processes.
Our country cannot isolate itself from climate change matters. So our research is also looking at how our country can adapt itself to climate change impact and the associated activities. When we had that pandemic outbreak, COVID-19, Esrf was the first institution that was able to carry out socio-economic impact of COVID-19, and we were able to show how we have been impacted in economic activities. We worked very closely with other organizations through various research hours and CHAHA to be able to get a specialized plant for exporting our flowers outside the country. This didn't come out of nowhere, it was research.
In area of agriculture, we have done a number of assignments supporting the Ministry of Agriculture and related ministries under RARIS. For instance, we supported SDP2 implementation, where we conducted more than 87 analytical studies to support the implementation of SDP2. But also we developed a program called Mobile Kilimo, hosted by the Ministry of Agriculture. And Mobile Kilimo actually was able to register all extension officers in Tanzania. Then it became a marketing tools, like farmers, if they have a certain number of products they want to sell, okay, I have this many bags of maize, and so it also become an exchange between farmers. But I think what is important about Mobile Kilimo is that if a farmer poses a challenge related to a product, somebody also, if the extension officer didn't respond, somebody within the ministry can respond. But not only that, we were able to change policy, to help change policy. For instance, in cage fishing, in our country, it was not allowed for environmental reasons. But we share the lake with Kenya and Uganda, they could do cage policy. So we did a demonstration, and eventually we were able to convince the government to change that policy of banning cage fishing in Lake Victoria. And then also that has spread in other parts.
Not only in the formulation of the policies, in the capacity building of those formulating the policies and implementing them is also achieved by ESRF through the training programs, including the policy dialogues and workshops that are organized by ESRF.
ESRF has been involved in building capacity for ministers, parliamentary members, permanent secretaries, even up to the lower level. And now we have so many personals that are really working in the government that we can claim as part of ESRF capacity building, and I being one of them.
However, the journey hasn't been without its challenges. Limited funding, shifts in donor priorities, and an evolving policy landscape have sometimes constrained the Foundation's ability to meet the growing demand for its services.
We cannot attract some of the certain skills that we would like to keep in-house. We cannot, so we have to use associates. It has worked, but it's not an ideal situation. And so sustainability, I would say, is one of the critical challenge we face. I think for partners or stakeholders to come and find an institution like ESRF, the issue of sustainability has to be critically addressed so that ESRF can always be there to provide the evidence and to advance knowledge as a premier think tank in Tanzania.
Most of the money coming as grants had already predefined topics or agenda to research on, which are not necessarily the priority of Tanzania. So I thought that was a challenge. So we tried, for example, to visit some of the institutions like the central bank, try to explain to them that we have to do what we think are demand-led research. At the end, of course, we managed to entice the interest of the Ministry of Finance, so they resumed actual funding. They started giving us almost between 15 to 20% of our recurrent expenditure, which was not there before. So there's a challenge which actually made us think some way out. So we managed to get out of that challenge.
From humble beginnings to becoming a respected thought leader, ESRF's journey demonstrates the power of knowledge in shaping the future. As it evolves, the organization remains committed to building a prosperous Tanzania through informed decisions and sustainable development. Looking ahead, ESRF is focused on promoting data-driven policies, empowering local stakeholders, and supporting inclusive growth. As Tanzania faces new challenges and opportunities, the legacy of ESRF's 3 decades of research excellence will continue to guide the nation toward a prosperous future for all.
In the coming 30 years, one of the things that is not going to stop is climate change and its effects. This is an area where ESRF, we need to team up with other scientists to be able to advise the government as to how we should move for this country to remain sustainable and to also provide space for future generations.
For the next 30 years, I would like to see ESRF continue to work closely with government on policy research, but government should be able to set aside public funds for that purpose.
The society is dynamic, the economy is dynamic, so research is required, it's a continuous process. So ESRF future is very, very bright.
Together, we build a stronger tomorrow.